Yeah, so thank you for that question. So the way I like to describe it to everybody outside of TRASYS, or even for the Marines and the workforce, is that the Commandant has three Title 10 authorities: man, equip, and train. Down here at TRASYS, we have two of those authorities, which is equip and train. And so how we maintain and enhance that is through our programs that we have as programs of record. So as a Marine comes out of boot camp or from officer candidate school, they're a basically trained Marine, and so our systems take them to the next level. So we got the non-standard training systems here that we're responsible for. So some of the training systems we have would be like the ISMET, so it's an indoor marksmanship trainer. We also have the Marine Corps driver trainer, so Marines can get more reps and sets behind the wheel when not actually on the road, but they're in a simulator, so kind of like if you're in a aviation platform. So everybody understands what NOX TSD does next door with their trainers that they have for aviation, but we're responsible for the ground side. So we, as a Marine Corps, moved ourselves in positions down here to Team Orlando in the early 2000s so we could work better with the other services. So this isn't a joint command down here, and that's why we call it Team Orlando. It's so we can work together. We use MOAs to work together down here, but we're not responsible for the requirements that a joint base would have. So with that, we are able to freely work with the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and soon to be the Space Force, which is coming on board here very soon, to look at what they're doing and not be stovepipe in the training side, which is very helpful for the Marine Corps because we're a lot smaller than the other services except for the Space Force, which I like to say we're no longer the smallest force out there. But we have a very limited budget, as everyone knows. And so with us being here, we can leverage the R&D or even the PMC that the other services have for their programs. If it's about 80% the same thing that we're trying to get after, we're able to get on with other services with that. That also helps our other services because it increases their AAO, which drives down the price of that acquisitions. So the battlefield of tomorrow is pretty much already here. And what people don't realize is if we were still training for the battlefield of yesterday, we'll be in trouble. So that's how we're trying to move in and really push forward to what we're doing now today here at TRASYS. And also if you look at Team Orlando, the rest of the teams out here, we all see the urgency of what we need to do. And what I'm really talking about is multi-domain operations. And be able to be, operate in multi-domain operations and also understand like whenever you lose part of that capability to still be able to move forward and be able to go against the enemy and not be frozen. And so it's very important that our training systems, like live virtual constructive training environment, as we start bringing in our training systems from across the globe into one environment for the Marines to train with. One, because if we're in a financially restrained environment, you say we'll save you money, and two, when you're limited on forces, you can bring in other forces from around the globe to assist in that. And so that's not only for the Marine Corps, that's really for all of the services, because the next battle is not just Marine Corps. The next battle is going to be the whole nation, which means all of our forces. And we as all of our forces need to learn to work together. And the key to do that is through training systems. So we want to be able to get the reps and sets training versus actually being on the battlefield and trying to figure it out already, right? So some of the key parts of that is like if we do the training systems right, we're able to give Marines, sailors, soldiers, airmen, and what do we call our space soldiers? The ability to not only train with the systems we have right now, but also the capability that we see in a few years of a system that's coming out. That's key. So if a Marine says he has a swarm of drones, and the capability right now is 5 drones, well, through training systems, maybe we can have him train on being able to control 18 drones. So that's why the training can get ahead of the actual capability before it gets fielded. So it's absolutely number one thing is Team Orlando. So being up at Marine Corps Systems Command, working out of the G35, examining the workforce down here and their needs, never fully understood the capabilities that comes with Team Orlando. And I've been part of joint commands before, and they don't really work that well together because you're always fighting for resources versus down here at Team Orlando where everybody brings their own resources and you're not fighting for it. So it's a very more collaborative organization, and it really helps all the services together. So leaning forward, the first thing I did as soon as I started to feel the benefit of Team Orlando is I'm pushing my whole workforce out to collaborate more with the other services. COVID really shut that down, and so the last PM was working to start do that, but he ran out of time. And so I've taken that on to really start putting the collaboration back out for Team Orlando so we can get at capabilities faster and more economically cheaper. I'll start this with just describing the number one and most important priority to me and for TRASYS, which is being warfighter focused. If we focus on the warfighter as an organization and understand what they need, then we will be doing the best service to the Marine Corps we can. And so why is that important to me? Well, I came into the Marine Corps as a young PFC back in 1993. So I've been on the receiving end of all of these training systems throughout my career, all the way up to sergeant, then I became platoon commander as a combat engineer, had to train my Marines and overcome the shortfalls of these training systems that we had at the time back in the early 2000s. And so as I came here, I knew I could be most impactful, understanding that what the warfighter goes through, and if we field a system that is incomplete or takes away from the actual training that they need. And so that I take that on at making sure that the requirements meet what the training requirements should be for the system and that it's realistic. So that's why I take that as the most important position for me as the warfighter. Well, I'm mission focused, so my number one mission is the Marine Corps, right? But my number one priority is my family. And so I'm very passionate about my family, about everything I do to make sure I'm taking care of my family. My typical weekend that makes me happy is if I'm spending time with my family doing something fun. Every day I come to work, I focus on the mission. However, every day if you look in my office, you'll see photos of my family all over because that's my number one priority. And that's why I'm so mission focused, because that takes care of the priorities in my life, which is my family.